How are you guys doing? Today is Saturday, June 19th, 2021, out here in this quarantine. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, now that the 2020-2021 NBA awards and teams have been announced, I'm going to go through the all-defensive teams and just give a little bit of context as to how these players were named to these teams. And of course, you could go through snubs all day, but I think it's worth mentioning the players that got here and just giving a little bit of reasoning why, because these are the players that are going to be etched in history. I mean, you can argue forever, but I mean, these are the people that are actually there. So looking at the players, at least for the first team in the NBA, the two players that collected the most votes were, one of them, the number one player. I'm going to lead off that with the headliner, the 2020-21 Defensive Player of the Year, Rudy Gobert, who would go on to win at his third Defensive Player of the Year in his last 4 years in 2018, 2019, and 2021. Also, in addition to being named an All-Star for the second time in his career, this is the fifth year in a row he's been named the NBA All-Defensive First Team Player, as he's been named to the first team every year since 2017. And he was also named to the All-NBA Third Team for the third time in his NBA career. But looking at how he fared this season defensively, he averaged 2.7 blocks this year, which led the league by he had half a block more than the second leading blocker in the league, Nerlens Noel, and he was able to be the leading defender on a Utah Jazz team that ended up with the best record in the NBA. And they had once they made the playoffs, they were able to beat the Grizzlies, who made it into the who made it through the play-in stage. And once they made it past them, they lost to the Clippers just last night. That's where their series ended. But of course, Rudy Gobert, that's where his defensive legacy kind of comes into all that. The player that actually tied Rudy Gobert in first or in total votes for the all-defensive team was Ben Simmons, the elite starting point guard for the Philadelphia 76ers. Yet, once again, the best defender on the best team in his conference. The Philadelphia 76ers would end up with a record one game better than the second place Brooklyn Nets. On the season, Ben Simmons would go on to finish averaging 1.6 steals per game, which is sitting around tied with fifth in the league alongside his teammate Matisse Thybulle, who also made the second team, but I'll get to him in a second. And once the Sixers made the playoffs, they beat the Wizards, who made it through their play-in round, and they were able to after containing the Hawks as much as they could, Ben Simmons was able to help the Philadelphia 76ers force a Game 7 against the Atlanta Hawks, showing how much impact he has defensively on the basketball court. So he's the second player. The third player, the player that got the third most amount of votes to be named to the all-defensive first team was Draymond Green, the 2017 NBA Defensive Player of the Year. This is the fourth time that Draymond has ever been named to the all-defensive first team, the first time since 2017. This is the sixth time he's been named to an all-defensive team. The last time he was named to an all-defensive team was when he was named to the second defensive team in 2019. To give a sense of when the last time Draymond Green was doing it was, he was able to help the Golden State Warriors finish with the eighth best record in the Western Conference at the end of the season. They would end up losing their first play-in game to the Lakers, and then they would lose their second play-in game to the Grizzlies, so they officially got knocked out before they could even make the playoffs. So that's how his story went, but that's, of course, Draymond Green adding yet another amazing defensive season to the books. The player that finished with the fourth most amount of all defensive votes was Jrue Holiday, the starting point guard for the Milwaukee Bucks. This is the second time that he was ever named to the all defensive first team. He was named to the all defensive second team in 2019. That was the last time he was named to an all defensive team. The last time he was named to an all defensive first team was in 2018. So this is the third time he's made an all defensive team. And of course, he got the most votes as a representative of the third best team in the Eastern Conference, Milwaukee Bucks, who ended up sweeping the Miami Heat in the first round, and they were able to force a Game 7 against the Brooklyn Nets, in which they play tonight, in which he's more than likely going to have to play against James Harden, with Kyrie Irving being out due to his ankle injury. So right now, that's what Jrue Holiday is doing right now, and this is, of course, his second time making All-Defensive First Team. And the last player to make the All-NBA First Team for the 2021 season was the 2020 Defensive Player of the Year, Giannis Antetokounmpo. The Greek Freak was, of course, one of the prime contributors on offense and defense for the third best team in the Eastern Conference, the Milwaukee Bucks. By helping them finish with the third best record, they beat the Heat, like I just said, and they forced a Game 7 tonight. This is the third season in a row in which Giannis has made the first team, the all-defensive first team. This is the fourth time in his career he's made an all-defensive team. He made the defensive team in 2017, to give a little bit more context. But yes, of course, Giannis Antetokounmpo, his impact is known, especially considering he's the second player from the Milwaukee Bucks in this first team, to give a sense of how strong this defense is. So that's the All-NBA First Team. Once again, rounding it out just to give a good sense of who they are. Starting from the top, it's Rudy Gobert, the 2021 Defensive Player of the Year, who has won it 3 of the last 4 seasons. Ben Simmons, who tied him with the same amount of votes, who's right now who just forced a Game 7 against the Atlanta Hawks. You have Draymond Green, who is a former Defensive Player of the Year and a player that regularly sits amongst the best defenders every year. You have Jrue Holiday, the starting point guard for a Milwaukee Bucks team that is fighting for their playoff lives against one of the best teams ever created tonight. And then, of course, you have Giannis Antetokounmpo, the reigning Defensive Player of the Year. So now looking at the players who were named to the second team, to the second all-defensive team, the player that had the most votes on the all-defensive second team was Bam Adebayo, the elite starting power forward for the Miami Heat on the season. He would help the Miami Heat finish with the 6th best record in the Eastern Conference before they got swept. But of course, on the season, Bam Adebayo would go on to finish we finished averaging 1.2 steals and 1 block a game as well. While, of course, he would also finish with about 18.7 points. Like I said, helping the team get to where they needed to be. This is the second year in a row in which Bam Adebayo was made the all-defensive second team. And this is the second team in which he's made an all-defensive team. So just to give a sense of how well he's been playing. The second player that was named to the all-defensive team was his teammate, Jimmy Butler, the elite starting small forward for the Miami Heat, who would end up leading the NBA in steals this year. And he was also the player that helped the Miami Heat at least last 6 games with the Los Angeles Lakers in the finals. But of course, Jimmy Butler was that guy. He was playing incredibly well. This is the 5th time in his career in which he's made the all-defensive second team in his career. All 5 teams he's made an all-defensive team. He's made an all-defensive second team. He also went on to make the All-NBA third team for the 4th time in his career, just to show how well he's been playing on both sides of the ball, while helping the Heat finish with the 6th best record to eventually get swept in the first round by the Milwaukee Bucks. The third spot in the all-defensive second team belonged to Joel Embiid, the elite starting center for the Philadelphia 76ers, who also finished making the All-NBA second team for the 3rd time in his career. He had the second most votes out of the best defensive team, and the team that finished with the best record in the Eastern Conference. Joel Embiid on the season would finish with he would finish averaging 1 steal a game and 1.4 blocks per game as well, while finishing in the top 10 in rebounds as well, while finishing in the top 5 for scoring, just to show what Joel Embiid has been doing on both sides of the ball. And his defense is also one of the big reasons why the Sixers were able to force a Game 7 against the 5th seed Atlanta Hawks for a chance to go to the Eastern Conference Finals, to get a sense of how well Joel Embiid has been playing. The 4th seed on the 4th place that was given to an all-defensive player was the 3rd player taken from the Philadelphia 76ers, Matisse Thybulle. He is the starting shooting guard on the team, or at least he starts. he would average 1.6 steals and 1.1 blocks on the season for a Philadelphia 76ers team that finished with the best record in the East. And of course, he was a big part of the reason they were listed as the best defense, or as the best defense in the East. That wasn't the Lakers, I assume. And right now he's one of the players that helped force a game 5 again, or a game 7 against the Atlanta Hawks. So just to give a sense of the player that Matisse Thybulle is. And this is the first time he's ever been named to an all-defensive team. So, of course, this could be the beginning of something amazing. The 24-year-old player out of Scottsdale, Arizona, and the University of Washington. The 20th pick out of the 2019 NBA draft. And last but not least, the last spot of the 2000 in terms of votes, the last spot in the 2021 all-defensive team was Kawhi Leonard, the GOATed starting small forward for the Los Angeles Clippers this year. This would be the second time in his career, or this would be the fourth time in his career he made the all-defensive second team, and this would be the third time he made the the seventh time he made an all-defensive team in his career. This year, he also made the All-NBA first team for the third time in his career, just to show, with like second team All-Defensive, second team, just with alongside first team All-NBA. Just giving that time just to sit in, just to help you, just to help give a good understanding for how good he's been playing this year. For the season, he averaged 1.6 steals per game, which is sitting amongst the very best in the NBA, tied for fifth alongside players like Jrue Holiday. And right now, he was one of the players that helped the Clippers get to at least through Game 4 against the Utah Jazz before he got hurt. He may be out for a very long time, but he did leave a serious impact on this 2020-2021 season. And with that said, that's virtually everything going on. But before I finish it off, just going through the all-defensive second team. The all-defensive team was made up of Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler, the new all-defensive trio, and for the former Eastern Conference runners-up. Alongside them, you have Joel Embiid, the 76ers elite starting center, who helped force the Game 7 against Atlanta, and alongside him, his teammate Matisse Thybulle from the wing. And then you have Los Angeles Clippers forward, their GOATed starting wing Kawhi Leonard, who was named to yet another all-defensive team to just add to his amazing legacy of being one of the best defensive players in NBA history. But with that said, that's everything that I got for you today, especially for this episode. Today is Saturday, June 19th, 2021, out here in this quarantine. I want to thank everyone once again for listening to my piece. I hope all is well, and peace out. I'll catch you with another episode tomorrow. Thanks for listening.